enemy units. Can you shoot them, move away? I don't know. I don't know that horse archers were available for everyone. They were available for barbarians, but I don't know about for everybody else. So you can see there's quite a few barbs around my border. Dotted or broken borders. Dotted are represent the zone of control. Oh, Aqua, this is early days in this barb swarm. Early days. So one of my theories from playing this, the amount of time I did play it, is between the early game changes in how your production works, especially with the civics bonuses, and oh, there's another cool change that I don't think has been mentioned yet. So settlers don't take, you're required to have population, as of right now, you're required to have population 2 before you can build settlers. But settlers don't stop your food production anymore. So whereas in Civ 5, if you're building a settler, you can never grow, right? Doesn't matter how much food you throw at it, your city always stagnates when it's building settlers. In Civ 6, that's not true. Your city can continue to grow while building settlers. So, in other words, your capital never gets the little bit of stunting that it would happen in Civ 5 as you're producing settlers. So settlers have less of that cost associated with them. Yeah, they still cost hammers to build, and yeah, they're still fragile and they're not military units, but you're not stunting your capital's growth anymore in the early game to do that. I don't know, Unique. No, this is not Raging Barbs. This is Prince level non-Raging Barbs. They're selling on a resource, hook it up? Probably, but I don't know that.
I am fond of pigs. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals.
No, they don't cost a population point that I know of. I was completely conquered by barbs, wasn't I? Hey, let's not do spoilers. You like the voiceover? It's different, right? You can see me inside another player's borders over there as I scout.
No temini kapa pakisi kamojaujoto. Walte potstoka tlakael.
Not a fan of the art style. Yeah, man, it's going to take some getting used to for me as well. It grew on me a little bit across the course of the game. So I have a slinger out now, that little thing that looks like, probably like a sling, honestly, is a slinger. And I built another warrior to help deal with the barbs. So I have now 3 warriors and a slinger. I now have 2 horsemen in my territory, a barbarian and a horse archer. New fog, can you no longer spot wonder building? Don't know. Didn't attempt to spot wonder building because I don't know what the wonders look like quite yet. I did build a couple wonders across these playthroughs. I built Oracle. I built I want to say I built Stonehenge. I'm not sure if that actually happened or not. Can't remember now. And I built Hanging Gardens.
It was luxuries like air conditioning that brought down the Roman Empire. With air conditioning, their windows were shut. They couldn't hear the barbarians coming.
So we have some good advice from the narrator there. Units still have a maintenance cost? They do. Again, this is one of the things I'll probably talk about in some future videos, but right now, the early game gold seemed really a lot of early game gold compared to what there was in Civilization 5. Right now, I think I have 6 units. I only have 1 city, and I'm not working any gold tiles, and I'm at plus 6 gold per turn or something like that. There was a lot of early game gold, and that gives you a lot of options for things like more military units. I'm actually expecting that between roads being removed, which means that distances are longer, which means that you need more military units to cover the same amount of distance, combined with no city shots in the early game, so there's no protection from that, and combined with a vastly increased barbarian presence, at least in this game, my other games weren't quite as much for that, it does seem like, and there's less penalties at early game for declaring war, right? As the systems aren't in place yet, early game war is very, very doable. So I don't know how it has in terms of long-term game impact, but at least for me, I think there's going to be a lot more of an emphasis on early game units. How do they... I don't know. We could watch it together, though, Solitaire. So we should look. We are making 5.7. Let's see what it goes to next turn. So it's 90 plus 5.7. I stole a worker from a city-state. It's not called a worker anymore. It's called a builder, and it has less long-term utility than a worker. But I did steal one. Thank you, Aqua. Improvements are instant.
Don't
know Asian Ninja. Not in this playthrough matter. I played... So again, I had the option of playing either... You could play 4 hours however you wanted, and I chose to start 3 times with 3 different civilizations in 3 different locations and pursue 3 different strategies in the early game to get some sense of the early game, what it looked like. So it was one of the other games where I was aggressive. My Aztec game, I was aggressive. The Aztec ability right now is if you kill an enemy unit that's not a barb, so if you kill any player or any city-state unit, last hitting it with the unique unit that you get from Aztec, you get a free builder. So it spawns a builder for you. So I tried playing with that and trying getting like a bunch of builders that way. There is a gossip system in here now. It doesn't seem to do too much in the early game. I assume this would be useful in the mid to late game, where some items are popping up from time to time. You get notified about other players' pantheons through gossip, for example. Not that you have to trade with them. There's a little pop-up on your screen that tells you this. You do have some AI options here. It does tell you some things about what's been going on with them, and it also tells you some things about when you actually mouse over the diplomacy. You saw it up there in like the white lettering, which I assume is probably a placeholder text, but things like, you know, they want this or that from you. What it is the AI now have like 2 types, I think it's 2 overriding things. The first is transparent, so like this is like the AI's personality, this is the leader's personality, like you know what some of their goals are going into it, and then they have a hidden goal as well. So Pantheon's giving it 20 minutes. We're at 18 right now, and I think it starts at 21, so I think we have a couple more minutes, but thank you guys, I will try to watch that. Yeah, you can declare surprise war versus denouncing and then declaring war. I didn't do a lot with this. I did my kind of typical multiplayer stuff, which is I mostly ignored the AI because they're AI, and just warred whatever the fuck I wanted. And it's on Prince, right? So what are they going to do, punish me? The only thing that punished me in these playthroughs in the beginning here were barbarians. And only on this one playthrough, and only with this horse camp. This horse camp is absolutely unbelievable. So I want to show you. Well, we're gonna get to this in a minute. But right now, production-wise in my capital, at 4 population, working mostly wheat piles on a hill, I think my production is something like 2 to 3 turns for a warrior, 2 to 3 turns for a slinger. Anything bigger than that requires even more production, right? So that's roughly. Warriors have the same combat strength as archers, not archers. As barbarian horsemen. The other thing was the interesting that I think I should point out now while I'm thinking about it is the difference in melee strength compared to range strength on archer units was much greater than it was in Civ. A slinger is 15 combat strength, and remember these numbers can change, so I gotta throw that caveat out there. But right now, Slinger's melee defense is 5. Slinger's offensive ranged attack is 15, which means that if you think about what that means, it means shoving melee units into archers is going to actually do some serious damage to them. Now, that difference wasn't quite as large between the archer unit, when the archer unit's ranged and melee strength, but it was still pretty big, and bigger than it was in Civ 5. So perhaps we're seeing more of the rock, paper, scissors trying to be introduced. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if that holds true of later archer units or not. Is there a hot seat mode? I have no idea. I wasn't given option to any modes besides this one game mode. So, well, I don't know, our gold went up to 65. I mean, it's certainly not doing integers there. Do we get up to 71 or 72 next turn? 71 or 70 next turn, rather. That's a good question, too, really, for me. I'm not entirely sure when the bonus did. It wasn't, the bonus versus barbs wasn't a percent modifier. It was literally an additive modifier, so you just added 5 to the strength. So it probably is 10 defense for slingers versus barbarians. see me exploring the civics tree. I wanted to try China Wonder Rushing. So one of the Chinese abilities is that you can expend their worker charges, their builder charges are 4 instead of 3, and you can expend builder charges to rush wonders. So I thought, oh, that might be kind of cool. And then I was thinking about like team games, like if you could play like Aztec plus China and just like dump extra builders on the Chinese player, and then like with last hitting, and then mass produce wonders. That really seemed very viable, but I was thinking about it. I'm like, that would be really cool. You see me fumbling my way through the diplomacy system. I'm like, whatever, just stop bothering me. I'm gonna go back to fighting barbarians. Alright, that little animation, do you guys see it? The popping with the noise, it sounds like you're almost getting gold, basically, is a barbarian spawning. Barbarians spawn, they didn't seem to be able to move the same turn they spawned, so perhaps we were done away with that. You guys can see the camp. I think it is 4, possibly 5 tiles away from that horse resource, but this is definitely a horse camp. It only spawned horse units for the entire game. And I want you guys to just pay attention on how often this barbarian camp was spawning. It's spawning 25 and 15 strength combat units every 2 turns on me, which is fast as my capital could produce them if I was going to do equivalent stuff. And this is without the scout mechanic. So this is just with the barb camp sitting there. The scout mechanic adds additional barbarians if the scouts get in and out of that. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if this is intended or if this will be changed or if this is really what the early game is going to be like. But if this is really what the early game is going to be like in terms of barbarian camps, we're going to need a lot of units. Like a lot of units. So just FYI, we were going to skip ahead just a little bit here. I'm not allowed to release anything about the religion system, and I do found a pantheon here. So I want to just move a little bit ahead. We'll just do it. We're going to skip like 3 minutes here or something like that. And at some point I'll have the edited version of this where there won't be that in there at all. But I think we ought to be able to go to there and be okay. All right. So we're just skipping it. I think it's 2 turns ahead. And I'm down to 0 faith, so that's after the pantheon. Alright, more barbarians spawning. A scout just showed up on my 1 borders over there, so we can bring a 4th camp. I do have 3 camps spawning into me right now, but honestly, the 2 southern camps really don't do much of anything. It's this northern camp that's like crushing me. Now, killing the barb scout doesn't prevent barbarians from spawning. It just prevents extra barbarians from spawning. So what I wanted to try is I actually did want to test expanding on a luxury, and there was a luxury I wanted to expand on over there. I wanted to expand on the copper. It's against the coast in the snow. It's snow copper. I wanted to see what would happen if I settled on snow hill copper, see what my yield was, and see if I got the amenity from settling that. Insta-heals are very frustrating right now anyways, because actually promotions I found somewhat frustrating. Mostly because when you have military units, you're using your military units. If you're playing the game well, you probably don't have a lot of military units just standing around doing nothing, because you're paying upkeep and you pay production for them. You want just enough military units for what your purposes or goals are in the game, right? And for me, that generally means your military units are busy in the early game, especially the very early game. If they're chasing barbs or going to clear camps or trying to tribute city-states or something like this, right? They're moving around the map all the time, and it takes an entire turn to assign a promotion. So that all your movement points are gone. You can't fire with the unit. I found it a little bit clunky to assign promotions. So I don't know if that's intended or not, but that's the current game mechanic. Can you still chop bananas? You can still chop bananas. So if you guys see workers you can chop your wheat too, I believe. You basically can do something called removing a bonus resource, and it is a temporary one-time boost of some yield off of that resource tile, and then it removes the bonus resource from that tile. So I think you can chop wheat, I think you can chop forest, I think you can chop stone. There might be other ones. You can definitely chop the bananas, but I think that might have just been improving it. I'm not sure if you actually chopped the bananas in sense of that. So why would you do that? I assume because you're rushing something. I didn't do it, quite honestly, because I'm like, I don't want to lose that tile, but that is my understanding how that works. Yeah, I mean, I'm using the Civ 5 slang for bonus harvesting a bonus resource. You chop enemy resources? That's another really good question I don't know about. So I don't know how builders interact with enemy tiles anymore. You know, it used to be in Civ 5 you could move a unit in, you could chop out their like forest to make it less defensible, you could build roads up into their borders. None of that works anymore. Roads also, by the way, you can use your opponent's roads. So if we're not clear on this, the dev said to me that roads are available for everybody to use, including inside hostile borders. So hypothetically, you ought to be able to use any roads that your opponent has in their borders, which are just crazy, crazy. That's a crazy decision. Maybe not crazy bad, but just crazy different, right?
Writing means sharing. It's part of the human condition to want to share.
Luxury bonus and strategic. Yes, Seek.
Is the mistaking of an accidental and individual symbol.
So you guys can see as we moved a little bit further along, we probably only hit 2 more civics texts, maybe 3 more civics texts, but the number of cards we have has gone up from 2 to 6. We can't use those purple cards yet because we don't have the correct type of government to fit those in. But the ones we have right now are reduce the cost of purchasing land plots by 20%, plus 2 gold from all trade routes, plus 1 production from all cities, or plus 50% production towards settlers. And then there's a scout bonus resource one. Oh, actually, it looks like we even have more because the cards that are in aren't represented over here. So we have 5 yellows and 3 reds here. Anti-barbarian, production towards ancient and classical era naval units, and then scout experience.
Versal.
Was this randomly generated or pre-generated and pre-screenshotted? Randomly generated. I started probably... I played 3 games briefly, and I think I started probably 5 times to get some sense of that, and it did seem to be different every single time. 50% production towards settlers. This is what I'm talking about in terms of flexibility. You no longer have to go Liberty to have a production bonus towards that. Instead, you get to time it as you would like. Too many cards? Only if they aren't balanced well. If they're balanced well, then the cards are really good. What I'm worried about is some cards will be vastly better than others. For example, that tile purchasing one did seem a little bit weak. But perhaps if you settle a city with that policy and just like buy a bunch of tiles for that one turn and then switch it over when you hit your next tech, maybe that could be good. I don't know. We're gonna have to play around with cards as players when we get going to see if they're relatively balanced or not. Yes, you can get rid of the 50% production bonus when you're done building them. Exactly, Matter. That's the entire point of the cards. Is you slot them in for the time that you want to use them and remove them again when you don't want to use them. Which means it's really, really cool. Really flexible in the early game. I agree, Aqua. I think that's what the video we haven't shown on stream yet, the other video on my YouTube that I released today, talks only about the civic system and basically how cool I think it is. Because I think it's by far the best new feature in Civ 5 or Civ 6 rather that I've encountered. Alright, another barbarian spawning. I went back and counted this just out of curiosity. It was every 2 turns from the moment that I had sight on it until whenever else. No, you don't lose cards when you remove them. No, you can plug them back in if you want them. Yep, you can move them, QBS. How do I feel about the music? I mean, this is my first play of it. I almost always turn game music off at some point because I play enough of the game that it will drive me nuts in a long period. I thought the music was pretty good, quite honestly. Can barbs pillage your improvements? Yes, they can. Takes them an entire turn to do it, though, just like everybody else for pillaging. And pillage is a full heal now. Like an entire full heal. I think I had one guy who was at like 15 HP and he pillaged a tile and went up to 100. Thanks, Sino. Alright, more barbarians coming out. So, we're looking at the amenity system. Let's do that. Let's actually jump back just a little bit if we can. So if you guys wanted to see what that looked like... Do I mouse over it again? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is the replacement, I guess, for the happiness system. It still was based on happiness. I don't know what dictates exactly how many amenities are required. I'm sure this will be revealed to us. It might already have been revealed to us, but I didn't know going into this, and I didn't figure it out while playing it. I actually paid almost no attention to the system besides improving luxuries that I saw and planning cities with luxuries near them. But you can see, looks like the various sources of amenities, things like negative amenities from war weariness, positive ones for great people, positive ones for entertainment, this type of stuff. And then you can see the bonuses that are happening right now. I'm happy and I get a growth bonus. When I think the first or second level of unhappiness, like I think at one point I had needed 3 amenities and I only had 1. And I think I was at minus 15% growth, and maybe minus 5% non-food yield or something like that. So basically, yes, these are going to increase or decrease yields according to the number of amenities you have. Just like Civ 5, the more luxuries or the more amenities in this case you have, the better it's going to be. But we'll see quite how this turns out play-wise. For me, I pretty much ignored it. But there's no way that we're even trying to argue that this is like optimal play. Like, we were just playing around. We wanted to see the early game systems and have some sense of a couple goals. Did they say anything about a free weekend? No, they didn't. Great one. They didn't ask them. They didn't say anything about that. Alright, so I'm building archers at this point because I'm tired of these barbarians. And I want to go settle something at some point. How severe is war weariness? I don't know. I had a fairly, well, not long, because I mean, when I play 3 games in 4 hours, none of my games are very long. But I did have a war game that we can show, probably not today, but possibly at a future date. I have to edit out some Pantheon stuff again. Is there a justified ward system? Don't know. Just starting resources and tile yields. I had of my, I think, 4 starts, I think only one of my starts was on a hill or had a hill that I could move into in a reasonable amount of time. If you think about it too, it's going to be a lot harder to get a hill start because moving into a hill is now going to take all of the settler's movement instead of half of the settler, instead of the remaining movement for the settler. So anytime that you're going to settle a city on a hill, you're going to have to take that whole extra turn to do it. So I don't know. How important is that? I mean, it's still that one production point. I mean, in Civ 5, I consider it a huge downgrade to a city if I have to settle on flat land. So. Yeah, that's true, Seek. Maybe after the Phyrexis stream, I'll be able to do that. Which civ was my favorite to play as? I most enjoyed my Aztec game, but my Aztec game was more about me conquering people than it was anything else. So that might just be my preferences showing through. How about Golden Age mechanics? I don't know either way. If I did ever enter a Golden Age, or if a Golden Age was a mechanic in the game, I didn't notice. Well, it's not the settling that's the full turn, Calze. It's the moving onto the hill, right? So before, let's say you're 2 tiles away from a hill. There's a flat land in between you, and there's a hill there. You move onto that hill in 1 turn. The start of next turn, you settle, right? And the way that the mechanics work now, you move next to that hill. You have to end your turn because you can't move onto that hill. Next turn, you move onto the hill, you end your turn again, and then you settle. So it's a turn later because of that. No one told me not to talk about this, so there was some talk about a multiplayer event possibly happening before release. I was told that I would be on the top of the list if that did occur. I was very much talking up multiplayer as a whole to both Richie and Joe. Joe is one of the PR guys who works with Phyrexis, and Richie, I believe, is actually at Phyrexis, one of the PR guys there. Richie told me he does have access to Steam numbers. It's less than 1 in 100 players play multiplayer who own Civilization 5. So we're going to have a hard time selling them that we need to do something with multiplayer if that's the type of players that are actually playing it. However, I hear there is some desire to emphasize and focus on multiplayer a little bit in Civ 6, so hopefully we'll see that happen. But if there is a multiplayer event, you can be damn sure I'll be there and doing my best to get a say in the ground floor so we can have a really good multiplayer experience. Well, he wouldn't give me the exact number, Matter. I wanted access to all that data because the stats, I have stats training in my background, and I wanted to go fucking analyze the data set and take a look at what predicts multiplayer, what are people using the multiplayer for, what type of stuff are they doing, when they check it out and then don't ever check it out again, what happened, this type of stuff. But apparently that type of information just isn't available for anyone who wants it. It's weird what they were secretive about. I was just making conversation with one of the guys who one of the 2K guys who was there. I think he was a project manager or something like that. I asked him, what was the development cycle like for this? How long you guys been working on this? And he's like, Everyone wants to know that, but that's like, it was like, that was like classified information. I'm like, all right, well, I was just trying to make conversation. I don't actually really care. I was just kind of curious. Thought, oh, I wonder how long they've been working on this for. But nope, can't tell me stuff like that apparently. So, well, part of the multiplayer is because it's so long. But one of the things Joe was talking to me about is that apparently they're trying to, that there may be multiplayer modes, and this was all hypothetical, so who knows if this actually comes out or not. But his message was basically, I think there's going to be less long multiplayer experiences, which sounds pretty good. I was making conversation. Alright, just absurd amounts of barbarians spawning over there. We're not losing troops to them yet, but it's just, there's just so friggin' many horsemen. And the problem with horsemen is, unlike other barbs, you can't really stay out of their way because they're too fast. Is multiplayer gonna be stable? How would I know?
A physician without a knowledge of astrology has no right to call himself a physician.
When is the Praxis stream? Probably this afternoon. Do I know what Brazil's agenda is? Not off the top of my head, but I believe that doesn't change from game to game. At least their non-hidden agenda. The hidden agenda changes from game to game. So that information is available already if you want to go look up what Brazil's agenda is. I think it's like accumulate great people or something. Do I think settling coastal in Civ 6 is detrimental compared to settling islands due to how the tile improvements work? Don't know. Too early for me to get any sense of that. Promotions give 50 HP? No, I think it's even more than that. Actually, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure exactly how much HP it is. But yes, assigning a promotion, I said this earlier in the stream, gives you, not only does it give you the effects of the promotion, so whatever that bonus happens to be, it also gives you an insta-heal. But the downside is it takes your entire turn to use a promotion. So you can't attack or move and use a promotion. Yeah, that's a good point too, Ray the Red. I mean, that would be something that if I could look at the data set, I could actually make some sense of, right? Of the people who are buying the game, how many of them are actually playing the game? Of the people playing the game, how many... So you guys can see me trying to look around. I was trying to turn off... Oops, shit. I was trying to turn off long combat. I wanted to turn on quick combat because it was taking forever. And I was and this was the third game I played, so I was starting to run out of time, and I'm like, God damn it, I have some things I want to try before I run out of time. So this was their computer system specs. I meant to test radaring, but didn't get around to it. One of the things that you do see is the scout. Even if terrain you can't see yet, the scout with his 3 movement, if he has 3 movement, and that would mean he'd have to have 3 flat terrain in a row to actually get his 3 movement, it will show you that you can move 3 movement when there is 3 flat terrain available, even when you haven't scouted it. So there is some, it looks like, again, probably means, and I mean, I might be wrong here, but my take on that is probably the client knows where the terrain is, even under the fog of war, which means that something like radaring may or may not be possible still, but certainly the scout knows, so... Another barb spawn. Starting to be a lot of barbs wandering around. I was trying to clear this camp. I built like 2 archers for it. But this barbarian camp was like producing at a faster rate than my capital, which was just nuts. No, I was not allowed to do that, banana. So, I mean, if this is like the early game, like this, the amount of units you're gonna need to be fielding to deal with this, it's gonna be interesting. You don't think this is intended? I don't know. When I brought it up, I actually asked the people there. There were no, okay, so at the event, since the event, I've talked to, I've swapped an email with the PR, one of the PR guys, who then forwarded to a dev and got all the questions I asked answered. I asked about 5 questions for clarification stuff. We'll talk about this in a second. This is the envoy system. But There were no game balance devs at the event itself. There were people who worked on the project, but there were no game balance devs directly. And so what we got was kind of limited information about some of the systems and the intended purposes of the systems. I was told things like you need to kill scouts, but there's no scouts actually right now getting to and from my capital. Those barbarians are spawning once every 2 turns without the scout mechanic. So if there were scouts as well, we'd be getting even more barbarians. I was told that I could have multiple camps spawning into me, which is true, but the barbarians on the west and the south aren't doing anything. It's all the barbarians on the east that are causing problems. And then I was told that there could be tech restriction stuff going on, but I'm not sure how. I mean, that would mean a lot of other civs are already at horseback riding, which is possible, but we're not sure. All right, so here you can see the